morning sun shines on the gleaming hide of a muscular ranch horse. The aroma of bacon and coffee drifts from the wood cook stove at a cow camp. Silver spurs jingle as the men and women of the West get set for another day in the saddle. From the heart of Canada's finest ranching country, this is the Spirit of the West with rancher and horse trainer Hugh McLennan and his collection of music, poetry, and conversations with the folks who live and work with horses and cattle in the Spirit of the West.
I think the world for horses has gotten a lot better over the last 30 or 40 years. I've been looking back at some of the literature and the instruction materials and memories from the 30s, 40s, and 50s, and a lot of those methods were pretty crude by today's standards, and they were based on assumptions about the way horses think that were not really valid. It's so refreshing to see the approach of good hands with a working cowboy background and a deep understanding of horses, giving the colts they start the best possible deal. Bruce Logan is one of those guys, and you'll hear from him today.
You know, it does take courage, but and then it also takes that little thing we call experience. And the only way to get experience is to go out and do it a lot.
And a tough old cow boss and a rookie cowboy is what Baxter Black discusses today.
These bad jobs can amount to having to chop the wood or feed the orphan calves or capture the renegade cow.
And capturing that renegade cow will be an adventure worth hearing today. On the Rangeland News, a tough question for you. See if you can tell whose voice this is.
We will work closely together to reform the WTO.
And the one and only Red Steagall in the Cowboy Poetry Spotlight.
You hire out to a man, you ride for his brand and protect it like it was your own.
On the Urban Saddles and Western Wear Horse Training File, some advice for getting a ranch colt slowed down for that precise corral sorting after he's been going in high gear for several hours getting the cattle gathered and penned. And the wonderful voice of Rex Allen Sr. with our classic Song of the West, and the equine savvy of Bruce Logan after the legendary late Chris Ledoux.
Nashville friends that think I'm strange to make my home out on the range. I think it's nothing but a God-forsaken land. Why don't you bring your guitar and family, move on down to Tennessee? Well, I just smile 'cause they don't understand. But if they ever saw sunrise on a mountain morning, or watch those cotton candy clouds go by, then they know why I live beneath these western skies. I got peace of mind and elbow room. I love to smell the sage in bloom, or catch a rainbow on my fishing line. We got county fairs and rodeos. Ain't a better place for my kids to grow. Just turn them loose in the western summertime. And if you ever held your woman on a summer's evening while the prairie moon was blazing in her eyes, then you know why I live beneath these western skies. You ain't lived until you watch those northern lights. Sit around the campfire and hear the coyotes call at night. Makes you feel alright. So guess I'll stay right where I'm at, wear my boots and my cowboy hat. But I'll come and see you once in a while. I'll bring my guitar and sing my songs. Sorry if I don't stay too long. I love Tennessee, but you know it just ain't my style. I gotta be where I can see those Rocky Mountains, ride my horse and watch an eagle fly. I gotta live my life write my songs beneath these western skies. And when I die, you can bury me beneath these western skies. Yippee-yi.
A couple of years ago at the Ivan Daines Country Music Picnic, I had the pleasure of riding a beautiful young Palomino filly by the name of Noel as I did the commentary on horseback for the 3-day colt starting competition, and boy, was she a pleasure to ride. I also rode her for a few days down at Jonathan Field's James Creek Ranch doing a little cow work, and she was a rescue horse started at that great event, Jonathan Field and Friends at the Agrium Western Events Center a couple of years ago, by Bruce Logan, and that's where she got that fine foundation. She's owned by Kelly Leon of the famous Horse in Hand Ranch in central Alberta, and Noel is just becoming a superstar, and she was originally destined for the packing house. Now here's a little bit about the cowboy who gave her that great start, Bruce Logan.
Well, I've been raised in Texas my whole life, and my father, he trained cutting horses, so that's sort of the lifestyle I had. We had cattle and, horses my whole life, and got a great chance to see the operation from starting to having finished cutting horses and cow horses, and so we had to run a cow operation, a yearling obviously for all our cutters, and so it's just sort of been what I grew up with.
Did you get to get on, do some turn back and stuff like that at a pretty early age?
Well, yeah, but I still had to do all those fun jobs, huh? I had to clean stalls, do all the barn work, and then work my way up just like everybody else. My dad was pretty much like that. But in turn back, I had to lope horses and turn back. I don't know how many. I couldn't even begin to tell you how many I've done on that. And so then eventually I started getting to show, and then I started the opportunity to start horses, and it just sort of came in. And then after that, that became my job, one of my jobs, and I still do it, so I never outgrew that one.
There's some beautiful footage and video on your website that I had a chance to look in on. Different pages have different visuals and everything on them, but this looks like really interesting country, and one of you and 2 or 3 other riders, and it looks like maybe a bunch of yearlings that you're moving across there, and it's not parkland. It's not like across a golf course. It looks a little bit rugged.
No, it is. That's one of the things. It's real rugged land. It's a real raw looking country out there. It's we're probably, 20-30 minutes from town, and so it's a great piece of property out there, and there's about 8,000 acres there that we're running some cattle on, and it's a great place to start a colt. It's one of the best places I've ever been to start colts, and and that's fortunate I was raised in that area too. I wasn't raised right on that ranch, but I was raised there, and I just love that country, and I've gone off to Montana and Colorado and spent some years and lived out there, but I always seem to come right back there.
Coming up, Bruce talks about cowboy work in Texas and his days riding in Montana when the Spirit of the West continues right after this. Welcome back to the Spirit of the West, from the ranges of central Texas to the rolling hills of northern Montana. Bruce Logan has ridden in a lot of beautiful ranch country, and he's seen the extremes from that Texas heat to that Montana cold.
It was pretty tough for a Texas boy. He's used to those 2-week winters, not those 6 months ones. So,
and yet, in the summertime when that sky is blue and the air is warm and everything, Montana can be so beautiful.
It was. I loved it in the summer. The two summers I was there were wonderful, but the 2 winters were pretty tough.
Were you working with cutting horses there? Or?
No, I was out there on a ranch out there, and starting colts and riding colts, and I had a great opportunity. That's when I spent with Ronnie Willis, what I would call my mentor, and he really taught me a lot about horses, starting horses, difficult horses, and it was a great opportunity to spend there.
When you bring up names like Ronnie Willis, we think of the legends, and of course Tom Dorrance and Ray Hunt and even Pat Pirelli certainly credits Ronnie Willis as a great influence on him, and Jonathan Field the same thing. What was it about him that made it work so well?
The first thing, if he would have walked in this room, he's one of those people that you have to go there and look at. Don't know why, don't know any reason, and he had so much wisdom that he had to share. And, I think he told me he worked on 26 different ranches. So not only, he had a wealth of knowledge and, the area, and I think he worked in Montana, California, Nevada, Texas, all over the, the northwest of our country. And just the way the man presented himself to the horse, to you, it didn't matter. And he was the same all the time. And that is such a valuable time in my life, and I'll carry that with me till the day I die.
Right. So you did get to spend quite a bit of time, like right there, shoulder to shoulder, horseback with him.
I did. I worked for him. I was sort of his second-hand man when I was there, and he treated me just like I was part of the family, and I got to know his family, and I still do. It was Ronnie was taken way too early from us, and to this day, I just there's a lot of people that didn't get to know Ronnie, but I'll tell you what, he was a special person, and he had those same type qualities that sometimes are hard to explain, just like with Ray Hunt and Tom Dorrance and those men that just there's something about them, the way they carry themselves and the way they are, and it doesn't matter whether it's with a person or a horse.
Next, Bruce talks about what it takes to be good at starting colts. And poet Mag Mawhinney has had a lot of her work set to music by various performers, and I think you'll really like her words here, as Abe Zacharias, who wrote the melody, does this.
He raised himself up in the stirrups, held the reins loose in his hands, leaned on the horn of the saddle well worn as he gazed at the rich meadowland. He headed due west on a cow trail which circled the old Johnson place. Was a shortcut around to his ranch near the town, where he'd soon see his sweet Jenny's face. He remembered the night that he'd met her at a hoedown in the old country hall. He had hastened a chance to ask her to dance, and they whirled to the square dancer's call. They were married that spring after roundup, and they worked side by side every day. There were 300 head on their small valley spread, which they built as their dream hideaway. His arms held her tight when he kissed her, then he handed to her all aglow a buckle so fine with two hearts intertwined, and the name of the ranch just below. He remembered the night that he'd met her at a hoedown in the old country hall. He had hastened a chance to ask her to dance, and they whirled to the square dancer's call. He remembered the night that he'd met her at a hoedown in the old country hall. He had hastened the chance to ask her to dance, and they whirled to the square dancer's call.
Now, Bruce, what does it take for somebody to be good at starting colts, do you think?
I'll tell you what, the first thing that I always try to tell people is be honest with yourself. You willing to do whatever it takes to help that horse get through the issues that he's going to have. And at the end of the day, there's not a lot of people that really are willing to do that. Now that's different. You know, those cowboys go make a living. You know, that's they're willing to do it because they got to get on him every day. But you know, as far as for going for the public and stuff like that, you just first of all be honest. I try to be honest with myself. Can I do that? And can I make a difference for that horse? And then there's a difference between breaking a horse and starting one. And that's what, to me, there's an art to it, and I've tried to make it that way. And you can see, like Martin, lays that way. And Ken, you know, it's part of what they do. It's not just something they do; it's who they are. And that's, I think, when you do it like that, you know, the horse becomes and stays the focus for what you're doing.
And it takes a certain amount of, I don't know what the word is or even how you describe it, but I've been on, you know, a fair number of colts for the first time and thought I was a colt starter until I saw guys like you and Martin and Ken and that kind of thing. But every colt is different, but there comes a time when you're on that first ride and you want to have everything in your favor as much as you can, but there's a few little thresholds that you got to step up and over, and you're not exactly sure, you know, how it's going to be. But like the way you got movement in that colt's feet when it looked like he was going to be pretty sticky, well, you kind of got to be prepared, balanced enough, know you're balanced enough to be able to kind of ride through that. And I've seen, you know, a lot of people get to that point and just kind of freeze up and just afraid to take that step over there. And it's not usually as bad as you think it's going to be, but it takes a certain amount of courage, or something to go on.
You know, it does take courage, but you know, and then it also takes that little thing we call experience. And the only way to get experience is to go out and do it a lot.
Some of the old timers used to say, okay, if you're moving out of a trot and he starts to pitch, best thing you can do is just pitch the slack and let him break into a run, flatten him out. But seems to be more of a trend now to kind of discourage him from bucking before it gets out of hand.
Well, you know, you got two choices when they go to buck, and that's it. You either cut it off, or you just say, I'll go where you go. And then when you stop bucking, we're really going to go. So, you know, there's if I can stop it, I will. But if not, and I'm just going to go and do what he does until he can. Because a lot of colts, what they'll do, and that's like that little colt I had. I could have stopped him, but that was the problem in the first place, which was his feet. So I said, you're going to go. And if you got a buck until you figure out that's the wrong answer, going forward and moving your feet, that's the right answer. So every horse is a little bit different. You know, if I had a horse that was a little bit runny, if you know, running and bucking, that's the, you know, that's the worst sort of scenario because it gets fast in a hurry. But I'd try to cut it off. But my little horse, I just made a decision and said, hey, you've got to move your feet anyway. And, you know, he never got real committed to buck. He just did it because he felt, you know, a little confined and said, I don't want to got my feet all stuck. So, but he worked himself through it.
And Bruce there, of course, talking about his one and only appearance at the main event colt starting competition in Chilliwack a few years back, along with Martin Black and Ken McNabb. Coming up, it's Baxter Black and Capturing the Renegade Cow, another good song, and then the mystery voice on the Rangeland News when the Spirit of the West continues right after this.
Howdy, friends. This is Baxter Black on Spirit of the West with Hugh McLennan with a little peek at the Renegade Cow. Ladies and gentlemen and followers of cowboy humor, I have carved another book from my funny bone, guaranteed to tickle your humorous. Sorry. The title is Scrambled Wisdom. Almost isn't is it? Which almost makes sense. Regardless, it's almost $20, only $19.95 plus shipping. Call 800-654-2550 or online at baxterblack.com. Sometimes the writing is on the wall and you're just too dumb to read it. I'm sure most of us at one time or another has had a boss that's too low down to come right out and fire you. So they just keep giving you all the bad jobs figuring, well, the dummy'll finally up and leave. These bad jobs can amount to having to chop the wood or feed the orphan calves or capture the renegade cow. Just bring her on home, the foreman had said. That is, if I found her, of course, in 17 sections of canyon and brush on the back of a nearly broke horse. Why he even bothered, I'll never know. She slipped through the gather each year. I think he was hoping that I'd up and quit. To a smart man, that would have been clear, but I saddled up and made for the bluffs. Think like a cow's how I think. The creeks had quit running, most tanks had gone dry, so I figured she'd hunt up a drink. Well, it was hot as a dashboard in Phoenix in June. When Yellow Man Spring come in view, I was stripped to the skivvies and knee-deep in cool when that cow come a-ambling through. Whether she jumped the highest or if it is me, don't matter, 'cause she broke and run. I swung to the seat, slinging seaweed and moss, thus exposing my hide to the sun. Off we go. She's a-picking a path while I'm a-building a loop. I missed the first 5 that I throw, but out on the flat on try number 6, I catch her, she's starting to slow. I lay on a trap and she plops to the ground. I sideline her right front and rear. I figure a soaking will break her to drive, and my catch rope slips off past her ear. When all of a sudden my piggin string's loose. She comes off the ground like a rocket. For a second or two I'm straddling her head and she's a-blowing her snot in my pocket. She might have been tired, but she plowed quite a while using me to turn up the curl. And when she finally got tired of smashing me flat, she left me head first in the furrow. Well, that night at the rancho, I told the foreman I'd bucked off. The story was cleaner. The renegade cow, he asked kind of snooty. I just told him that I'd never seen her. This is Baxter Black on Spirit of the West with Hugh McLennan. Thanks for listening.
In our many travels over the years, Billy and I have stayed at a lot of hotels, and one of our very favorites is the Sheraton in Red Deer. So many times for the main event, the Ivan Danes Country Music Picnic, and other occasions, it's been like a second home to us. There's no better place to have a conference, convention, meeting, wedding, or a family reunion. They have 3 great restaurants, and they really make you feel at home. And oh, those beds and pillows are so comfortable. We highly recommend it. You can call them toll-free 1-800-662-7197 from wherever you are. You know, I don't think a day goes by that we don't think about Mike Pahallo, founding member of the BC Cowboy Heritage Society, one of the founders of the famous Kamloops Cowboy Festival, rodeo competitor, working cowboy, rancher, horse trainer, and brilliant cowboy poet. These are Mike's words as sung by Bernadette Ducharme.
Call me a fool if you want to, I'll not deny your claim. I spent my life chasing after many a foolish game. I haven't lived my life safely, I've always played on the edge. A fool who thinks dreams are a challenge, and a bet's not a bet if you hedge. A cowboy, a poet, a dreamer, a rancher and a rodeo hand, and no great wealth I've acquired, for money slips through my fingers like sand. But I've gathered a treasure of memories and the love of a woman that's true. These are the things that matter to me, far more than your gold does to you. A cowboy, a poet, a dreamer, a rancher and a rodeo hand, and no great wealth I've acquired, for money slips through my fingers like sand. And when our journey is over and the final tally is done, I know I'll only leave with my memories, but can you do any better, old son? A cowboy, a poet, a dreamer, a rancher and a rodeo hand, and no great wealth I've acquired, for money slips through my fingers like sand. Oh, you can call me a fool if you want to, but boys, I'm proud to report I've chased every dream that called me, 'cause life ain't a spectator sport. Oh, you can call me a fool if you want to, but boys, I'm proud to report I've chased every dream that called me, 'cause life ain't a spectator sport. No, life ain't a spectator sport.
Join us Labor Day weekend for the 69th annual North Thompson Fall Fair and Rodeo in Barrier, BC, September 1st to 3rd, with 3 full days of BCRA rodeo finals, pony chariot and chuck wagon races, entertainment stage, lawn tractor races, 4-H and livestock competitions, outdoor and indoor entertainment, bingo, amusements, heavy horse pulls competitions, light horse show, hundreds of entries in the exhibit hall, great food, commercial booths and exhibits for the children's area, and more. Take in our cowboy concert Sunday night and get all the details at fallfair-rodeo.com. And I just got the word that I will be there Sunday night at the Cowboy Concert at the North Thompson Fall Fair, along with Ed Wall, Butch Falk, and Gordy West. Should be a great show.
Now the news of the Rangeland, a roundup of news and coming events from around the West.
At the top of page 1, it says it's not difficult if you watch TV or listen to the news to hear the voice of U.S. President Donald Trump. Well, now you'll even hear him on the Rangeland News. In this report on overhauling the World Trade Organization from Gary Crawford.
When President Trump and EU President Juncker met in Washington, Trump said among the things they agreed to do,
we will work closely together to reform the WTO.
And this past weekend in Buenos Aires, agriculture ministers from the G20 countries agreed the World Trade Organization rules, particularly those for trading in food and farm products, do need reform. Agriculture Secretary Sonny Perdue was at that meeting. He told reporters,
most of the conversation had to do with the enforcement of the things like the OIE and the standards that we have agreed upon based on sound science. Many countries follow those, and some choose to ignore them. And what we were trying to determine is how we can make the WTO more of an organization that truly guides international trade the way it was intended.
In a statement, the G20 ag ministers said they were concerned about increased use of non-tariff protectionist trade barriers, but did not lay out a plan on what to do about them. Gary Crawford for the U.S. Department of Agriculture, Washington.
Authorities in Texas have confiscated 88 cattle that were in poor body condition after at least 18 other cattle from 2 different ranches had died. While the 2 cases were not related, it reveals a possible problem of animal neglect during a widespread drought in Texas and nationwide. The Williamson County Sheriff's Livestock Unit responded to a complaint of neglected cattle on July the 18th. The deputies found 9 cow carcasses in what was described as a boneyard in a 180-acre pasture. In all, 46 calves and 35 cows and a bull were gathered from the ranch in Williamson County and hauled to the Cameron Auction Barn for veterinary treatment, feed, and water. Well, you may have seen this. More than 100 goats burst into a neighborhood in Boise, Idaho, startling residents and captivating spectators on social media as they feasted on lawns, flower bushes, and tree leaves. The herd of goats had been at work clearing some land for the county when scores of the inquisitive animals escaped at about 7 a.m. local time, and they wandered into a West Boise suburb. The herd of about 118 was wrangled into a truck by a company worker at around 8:30 that night. I guess there should be a service like 1-800-CALL-A-GOAT-ROPER, I guess. Well, for long as ranchers have been raising cattle on both sides of the Canada-U.S. border, cattle have found holes in what is sometimes just a 3-strand barbed wire fence separating the countries and strayed from places like Montana into Alberta and Saskatchewan or Idaho or Washington into BC or the other way. And as far as I know, they have not carried any documentation with them. But how about this? Bulgaria agreed last week to spare the life of Penka, the cow, after plans to kill her for crossing the European Union borders without paperwork triggered an international outcry. Penka wandered away from her herd near the Bulgaria village of Mazarashevko last month and walked out of the bloc into neighboring Serbia. When she returned 2 weeks later, authorities said she would have to be put down because she'd violated guidelines under which animals entering the European Union have to have papers verifying their health. And Penka's plight prompted a lot of protests on social media, and now she has been spared. Well, August the 28th at the BC Livestock Co-op Yards in Kamloops, a special yearling and regular cattle sale. And then August the 30th, regular sale in Williams Lake, and August 31st, the regular cattle sale at the Vanderhoof Yards, and you can get all the details at bclivestock.bc.ca. Meanwhile, over there at the Innisfail Auction Market, great operation run by the Danes family for so many years. They've had some great horse sales in the last few weeks. Regular cattle sales every Wednesday, and lots of yearlings coming in now. To book your cattle for the fall run, give them a call at 1-800-710-3166. And guess what? We're down to the final item. A young ranch kid in high school who was very bright, but he'd much rather be helping out on the ranch than doing his high school homework. And he got to school last week and realized he'd forgotten to prepare for an assignment which was to write an essay on the effect of urban subdivisions in several counties on the future of cattle ranching. Well, the young guy pondered the assignment for a while, and then he picked up his pen and wrote, "I will discuss the effect of urban subdivisions in several counties from the point of view of the cow." And that's the Rangeland News. Coming up, the Urban Saddles and Western Wear Horse Training File and more from Bruce Logan when the Spirit of the West continues right after this. Welcome back to the Spirit of the West. You know, in the development of a colt into a good solid ranch horse, one of the challenges is that transition from going from in high gear for several hours gathering cattle to getting his mind slowed down for the sorting work in the corral once the cattle are gathered. And that's the subject of the Urban Saddles and Western Wear Horse Training File coming right up. And now I'm not really sure what you'd call this. Western funk? Cowboy hip-hop? One thing about Wiley Gustafson, Wiley in the Wild West, they don't mind pushing the envelope a little.
I'm gonna head to Elko the end of January. Recite a poem, maybe recount a story about the golden days and all their glory. I'm gonna be a cowboy daddy on my 20-acre spread with my longhorn cattle. Got my jingle bob spurs and a custom saddle. I'll ride a genuine BLM Mustang pony. Oh yeah, I'm gonna be a cowboy daddy. Turn me loose. I'll get me a Montana prison-made horsehair belt. Buy me a handmade hat, a 100X beaver belt. Find a Brannaman clinic. Ooh, hot dang, I'm gonna learn to throw a big hula hand. I'll buy a 44 pistol with a permit to carry. I'll live the wild life of dash and daring. You won't see me in the office come Monday morning. No way. I'm gonna be a cowboy daddy. Now this old-time revival is a moving deep inside of me. It's time to grab a piece of Western history. So long to all you captains of industry. That's right, I'm gonna be a cowboy daddy. Oh, yeah.
Now it's time for the Horse Training File, brought to you by Irvine Tack and Western Wear, Canada's largest Western store.
At Irvine Tack and Western Wear, you won't find this.
Size what? I don't know. Can't you see I'm busy? This sandwich won't eat itself.
But you will find this.
We have every size, every style. I'll show you. This way.
So saddle up for Irvines today. They'll get you suited up for all the rodeo fun all summer long. Boots, belts, jeans, shirts, hats, and accessories. Best selection from Canada's largest Western store. Exit 305 off Highway 2 by Crossfield.
Don't just wear it. Live it. Irvine Tack and Western Wear.
The consummate top hand and buckaroo from the Northern Range, Miles Kingdon, has a great article in the August issue of Saddle Up magazine, and he addresses the progress of a solid ranch horse from start to being the top horse in a cowboy's string. And so much of that progress he relates to the horse's feet. Now, I highly recommend this article. I've always been aware that there are several skill sets that a ranch horse needs, and in the early stages, he'll cover a lot of big country, sometimes with a group of cowboys on their horses, sometimes just the horse and his rider. And his feet really need to be freed up because he'll cover a lot of miles at a trot or a lope. He has to learn to rate a cow so she can be roped, and as his skills are honed, he'll become pretty handy for gathering small or large groups and learning to keep them out of the bush and on the right trail. But a little later, he needs to learn some skills that almost contradict what he's learned on the open range. Once we've got the cattle in the pen, we want those horses to settle down and work quietly, one step at a time. And Miles puts it this way. We ask the horse to move his front feet in a direction and then release when the feet start to go. Our hands rest on his neck when we want him to stop his feet. If we can do the same thing every time, the horse becomes happier and makes small moves willingly. Once the horse recognizes relief with the release of his feet, it's easy to get his feet moving forward again and quickly if required. And as all top hands know, the timing of the release is crucial. You might think your timing and your feel are pretty good, but if the horse is not checking in with you by flicking an ear back in your direction, you might need to work on that just a little bit more. And for Urban Saddles and Western Wear, that's the horse training file. Gosh, we find that our horses do well on Hoffman's horse ration. 2 of them have graduated to the senior version of it now. You can find out more at hoffmanshorseration.com. Join us Labor Day weekend for the 69th Annual North Thompson Fall Fair and Rodeo in Barrier, BC, September 1st to 3rd, with 3 full days of BCRA rodeo finals, pony chariot and chuck wagon races, entertainment stage, lawn tractor races, 4-H and livestock competitions, outdoor and indoor entertainment, bingo, amusements, heavy horse pulls, competitions, light horse show, hundreds of entries in the exhibit hall, great food, commercial booths and exhibits, the children's area, and more. Take in our cowboy concert Sunday night and get all the details at fallfair-rodeo.com. Well, when I had this visit with Texas cowboy and trainer Bruce Logan, he was in the middle of the Trainers Challenge at the Chilliwack main event a few years ago, and he was doing well. Martin Black actually was the winner of that one, and we talked about a reasonable time it takes to start a colt.
Like I said, the horses that come in our house, I try to have them stay for about 90 days so I can at least get a decent foundation on them, not just go out there and, like these colts, they're going good, but, that's just really that's just the start. Yeah. They're not broke horses by any means. They don't have enough experience. They've only got 4 or 5 hours experience, and anything that we've ever, you do, 4 or 5 hours of experience, you might know your job a little bit, but when you've had about 100 hours, you're a whole lot better at it.
And isn't that the way? And people see working cowboy on a horse that is just superb. He's got a feather-light touch. He can do anything. You can doctor bulls on him all by yourself. You can sort cattle. You can load cattle in the open or whatever you have to do. And they say, well, how long does it take him to get that way? Well, a little more than 4 hours. That's for sure.
It sure does. And it's, all depends on the horse. But, you got to think those guys are riding those horses all the time. And same thing, I got a certain, even for a cutting horse or a cow horse, it takes 18 months, 24 months to even be ready to go show them, to give those guys a chance to go out there. And that's just, like I said, that's just the beginning. Yeah. That's not the end of it. That's the beginning of their show career. So they're still, you get them all ready, but they're still inexperienced to be showing. So then you got several years to do that. And so it's interesting with these horses and people's concepts on sometimes they seem to want it to be there after you've done it once or twice, but it doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way with us. I know I was not near as good 10 years ago than I was now, and I'm hoping 10 years from now I'm a whole lot better than I am right now.
Well, this year's Chilliwack Trainers Challenge has announced that Severin Peterson from Vancouver Island will be back, along with Jason Irwin of Port Elgin, Ontario. The third trainer is still to be announced, and Jason was in the Red Deer Challenge in April, and boy, he impressed a lot of people. And Jonathan Field will be in the lecture hall Saturday and Sunday in Chilliwack. Well, I'd have to say a little rain's okay once in a while for sure, but those blue skies are pretty nice too. Here's Terry Brown.
Of happy dreams that all come true. Blue skies always is this old cowboy's wish for all of you. May the horse you ride be gentle and eager for the trail. Your supper hot and plentiful and steady as the mail. I wish you blue skies always, and nights of happy dreams that all come true. Blue skies always is this old cowboy's wish for all of you. May your campfire keep you nice and warm at night when you bed down, and you wake up to discover gold just laying all around. I wish you blue skies always, and nights of happy dreams that all come true. Blue skies always is this old cowboy's wish for all of you. Happy dreams that all come true. Blue skies always is this old cowboy's wish for all of you. That's this old cowboy's wish for all of you. Yeah, that's this old cowboy's wish for all of you.
Coming up, Rex Allen Sr., last of the Silver Screen Cowboys with our classic Song of the West, and then Red Steagall in the Cowboy Poetry Spotlight, when the Spirit of the West continues right after this. Welcome back to the Spirit of the West. While Billy was hanging on to me by my ankles, I had my head down deep in the vault, looking for a special song for this week's classic Song of the West. The song was, I thought, called Old Buckaroo, and I had heard it before, but I can't remember when. And I came up with a whole bunch that sounded pretty similar. The first one I found was by the black and white singing cowboy movie star Dick Foran from a movie from 1936.
Close your sleepy eyes, my little buckaroo, while the light of western skies is shining down on you.
But that wasn't the one I was after. And then I found this one by Gene Autry, which was recorded around the same time.
You've hung up your boots and saddle, you're through blazing trails, buckaroo. The sun's in the west, you've earned peace and rest after all you've been through, buckaroo.
And then I found this treasure from Hank Snow.
You're a tired buckaroo, little pal. You've been riding hard all day, little pal. Soon the Sandman will be calling as the twilight shadows fall.
And I was just about to give up when way down at the bottom I found this old dusty 78 from the last of the Silver Screen Cowboys, Rex Allen Sr. This is the one, our classic song of the week, Old Buckaroo.
Old buckaroo, you're weary. Old buckaroo, you're tired. Old buckaroo, your riding days are through. Old buckaroo, good night. tired. Old buckaroo, your riding days are through. Old buckaroo, good night. Dream of the days on the prairie. Dream of a new heavenly range. When Gabriel calls, you'll be ready. You're waiting for the change. Old buckaroo, you're weary. Old buckaroo, you're tired. Old buckaroo, your riding days are through. Old buckaroo, good night.
The Texas gentleman Red Steagall is in the Cowboy Poetry Spotlight with one of his originals this week. And Red, what's the story behind Ride for the Brand?
It's kind of special to me because it talks about a work ethic that I grew up with that still exists in the cow country. It was inspired by a friend of mine named Paul Whitley, and he lives up at the Cedar Top Camp on the Wagner Ranch, and I was up there spending some time and walked out in the front of that lodge or that camp and wrote this little poem. Well, his skin looked like leather. He walked with a limp and talked with a slow Texas drawl. His knuckles were knotted and his right thumb was gone. Claimed a stud bit it off late last fall. Hell, we knew he was lying. We'd watched him dally it up. But it ain't healthy to call him a liar, and it was Saturday night before the wagon went out, and he was setting this new kid on fire. Now, we'd all heard his stories about places he had been, and we think that Jake's pretty strange. But he looked over at me and said, I'm a-schooling this boy about the unwritten laws of the range. And the kid was enthralled. He's kind of like in a trance, and Jake sensed that he had a good grip, so he straightened up, hitched his pants, took a drink of cold beer, and turned around with his hand on his hip, and he said, Son, a man's brand is his own special mark. It says, this is mine, leave it alone. You hire out to a man, you ride for his brand and protect it like it was your own. He said Mr. Wagner come out here in 1903. This country was sagebrush, mesquite trees, and sand. He carved him this ranch out of blood, sweat, and guts. So be proud that you ride for his brand. If you hired out the string barbed wire, build him a fence. It don't matter if it's 4 or 5 strands, just remember, it was you who asked for the job. Don't bitch when you ride for this brand, because Mr. Wagner don't hold with complainers. And he'll fire one for it and quit. So if you don't like this outfit, just head down the trail and find a horse that your saddle will fit. But if you get up early and catch your own bronc and show the boss that you're making a hand, then Mr. Wagner will be there to cover your bets, as long as you ride for his brand. And then he said, the winter I spent at the Sixes, we had a man at the old Taylor place who rode up on some hiders a skinning the cow and squared off at them scamps face to face. Now, he could have rode off and never looked back, but he just wasn't that kind of man, and we found him in Ash Creek, shot all to hell. No Kona Joe died for the brand. Well, we know the old man tells a windy or two, like the one about losing his thumb. And No Kona was killed in the bars of Fort Worth with the demons and a bottle of rum. But I got to thinking about what he had said. And the more of it I understand, the more I believe we'd be all better off if more people would ride for the brand.
Well, thank you so much for making the ride this weekend. I sure hope you can join us right here next week at the same time. And if you're in central BC, join us for the Sunday evening cowboy concert at the North Thompson Fall Fair and Rodeo Labor Day weekend. And thanks again to our support crew, Mark and Kathy McMillan, for all you do. And remember, you can subscribe to Canadian Cowboy Country Magazine at cowboycountrymagazine.com. Till next week, I'm Hugh McLennan. Hope to see you down the trail somewhere real soon.